All right, guys, this week of H2H is going to look a little bit different. I am currently on vacation at the time of you guys even watching this, so we had a short amount of hours to be able to edit this and get it live. So me and Tasos rolled with a little bit more of a, I guess you could say, raw version of editing and raw version of recording this week's episode. It will return to normal next week, but hopefully you guys can cut us a break and cut us some slack and still enjoy the episode with it being a little bit different than normal. Guys, welcome back to H2H, the show in which Tasos and I battle it out each and every week. Go head-to-head, hence H2H in the NFL. Whoever gets the best picks and the most picks right, essentially, ends up on top. I am coming off of a winning week last week. I can't get too celebratory. This is much like when I got my first win earlier. I'm still down 2-4 in terms of record this season, but it was a pretty good week for me, Tasos. I end up coming up. I actually had a really good. It's so funny. It's kind of like that week you had 2 weeks ago or whatever, where you hit everything. I went 5-0 in my YouTube plays, and then 3-1 in these picks last week. So definitely a good week for me. Hopefully that's got a little momentum coming, because I still do. I'm man enough to admit I still have some work to do to go ahead and catch you. I'm down 2 weeks right now. The season, we're right near that midway point. 2-4 record here, but I feel good coming off of a win. Your thoughts, after coming off of a loss, which is kind of foreign territory to you?
Yeah, it's a little rare. I'm not used to it. Like I just kind of expected at this point, like when we come to record, like I'm gonna be like, oh, what's my celebratory kind of speech? And this is the first time, and only the second time this season I haven't been able to do that. So a little bit of a weird feeling. Yeah, I can't. There's nothing I can say. And I even told you on the show last week I liked a lot of your picks. Of course, Alti-Ev is the one that didn't hit, and that was an obvious one, I think. Alti-Ev just is your biggest weakness, but
I wish I could go back and see my alternate picks and see how many of them have lost, because I don't know if I've hit any.
I don't think it's hit. I think maybe one.
I know I hit the Eagles. The Eagles one, yeah.
So maybe
against
that's
the Bucks,
the only one.
But whatever.
But yeah, no, it's you had a good week. I can't 3-1. I can't really see. I did the reverse. I went 1-3. It was a tough week. I realized when we finished. When I was looking at our records, because I went back to I rewatched the video thinking, all right, like, where did I go wrong? And I realized what I did. I put so much stake on just horrible football games. Like, two of my picks surrounded the Bears and Vikings. You know what I mean? And then my prop was on Russell Wilson and the Broncos. Like, I put all my chips on these horrible games and horrible teams. And, I shouldn't be surprised with what happened, I guess. But I won't bet on Russell Wilson again. I'm done with that.
We liked that too. We were both kind of in the same boat, and then that game wasn't all that great either. But a lot of these primetime games have.
He did have one. He did have one, but
it's true. He was close. But anyways, guys, if you don't know what the show is, like I said, we battle it out each week. It's a units-based competition, so it doesn't matter the record. I could go 0-4. Tasos goes 1-3. If he makes more units on the week, he does get the win for the week. We spin a wheel to decide the order, the bet type, and all that good stuff. The last round is the Fade Me round. We'll also spin a wheel for that. It's really, really cool. So make sure you guys stick around till the end of the video. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button as well. Tasos, you ready to jump into the wheel?
I'm ready. I'm ready to dust off the stink of last week. I'm ready to get back on the winning track.
Sure. Hey, whatever you say. Whatever you say. I can at least brag for a little bit here.
But I don't want to be condescending. It's not my nature to be condescending. But
is that right? We're 7 weeks into the show, and you're telling me you're not condescending.
I don't want to be condescending, but and we kind of had this talk the last time you won, but for the sake of the show, I'm actually happy you won in a sense, because if I was 5-1 and you're 1-5, you might have had to stick a fork in you. Like, it might have already been too little too late. Like, it does make it interesting now. It's only a 2-game deficit, and we got, including this one, 12 weeks left. Like, there's a lot of time and only a 2-game lead. But if I was up 4 games, the whole picture is different. So that win definitely made things a little more interesting. So for the sake of the people, for the sake of the listeners, the watchers, those who follow H2H, I'm happy you won. So congratulations.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said congratulations at the end. I'll take it. I don't care if it was a condescending congratulations. But, guys, you see a wheel on your screen right now. We're going to spin it. It decides who gets the first pick in the draft, and then it is a snake draft after that. So let's go ahead and spin it. 3, 2, 1. I don't even the first pick. I'm not even sure if I want the first one here.
Well, you're not going to get it, so that's
okay.
Wait,
okay.
nope, you're not going to get it. So that's okay.
You got it.
The wheel.
All right, so Tasos
you should
gets
know
the
by
first
now.
one.
You should know by now what the first wheel spin 90% of the time is me.
It is true, and the first
Crazy.
wheel spin has been like it's kind of crazy how the wheel has dictated some of these wins. As we get further and further, I'm sure it'll like lessen out. But like the fade me round, whoever that's landed on has won that all but 2 weeks through the 6. Pretty interesting. But all right, we will pop up another wheel now. And what this is a bunch of different pie slices like you just saw, only this is the bet type. We have spread, total, money line, or there's no money lines on here. I should probably add a couple of those, huh?
No money lines. Okay. This
We'll
is
add
the
one
second
money
time
line
this
because,
happened, I think, right?
yeah, it's ChatGPT. They throw in the randomizer. Sometimes they leave
They
it out,
hate-
but
they
I'll
hate the
throw
money
in
line.
another money line because I just think it's fair, and we haven't started yet. But all right, here we go.
All right. I kind of
bunch
like
of
last week,
slices
which is
here.
what scares me. I just whatever it lands, I don't really have a preference here, which kind of and there's the money
Look what it's
line.
gonna land. That is
There we go.
okay.
Great
That
start.
is interesting. But all right, money line pick Tasos. You are on the clock, and then I draft second here.
All right. This one, I like it and I hate it at the same time. I don't.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I hate bandwagon teams like this, and I just to kind of give you a picture. I'm taking the Detroit Lions plus 140 money line at the Baltimore Ravens. I hate the bandwagon that the Lions have currently because I feel like they are a good football team, and I really do like watching them. The storyline is fantastic. Obviously, you know the history and the legacy of the Detroit Lions is kind of not good, right? They have had a horrible history. They everything like Jared Goff was outcast from the Rams. Dan Campbell, everyone said he wouldn't work as a head coach, and then here we are, and they're a great story. They got a bunch of fun young players. Jared Goff has completely recalibrated his career, and now all of a sudden he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league this season. So there's a lot to like about them, but I do feel like people, because they like the storyline so much, they've hyped this team up to the point where I see like on ESPN and like these big network shows, people are putting Detroit like 2 and 1 and 3 in their power rankings. And it's crazy. They're a great football team, don't get me wrong. And they're probably, if I had to rank them, I know this isn't that kind of show, but if I had to rank them, they'd be like 7 or 6, maybe pushing 5. Like they're a really good team. I don't know if I'd say they're one of the best or a true Super Bowl contender. Anyways, my point being here, I don't love riding them because I feel like every week America's on the Lions, which scares me. But I think the Baltimore Ravens are the AFC version of the Lions in a sense where it's like, I get the hype because Lamar Jackson, he's a likable guy. People love rooting for the Ravens. But I just don't think the Ravens are that good either. Like, I think these are two very overrated teams. Both are good teams, but I think people make them out to be these, like, elite football teams. And I just think they're kind of, I would say the Ravens and Lions are both top 10 teams, but, on the lower half, not the top half. And, I just think Detroit, I think offensively they're going to be able to put this Ravens defense into some messy situations. I think Lamar Jackson, great athlete, not the best thrower of the football. When you make him stick in the pocket, he's kind of average, right? And so I do think the Lions defense has been really solid this year. I think they'll be able to put pressure on Lamar. So I like the Lions here. I know probably most of America likes them too, which is the scary thing. But I just don't. Baltimore's wins haven't been super impressive, and their losses have been very worrisome. Like that win in London against the Titans, there's nothing about that win that made me think, oh, the Ravens, this team is scary. Like their win, they beat the Bengals, they beat the Browns when they didn't have Deshaun Watson. Like their wins have all been, I hate to say the word like yucky, I guess is the best word to say it. Like I don't feel confident in any of their wins. I think Detroit, they at least have like the Chiefs win. The Bucks they beat this past week in a pretty good team. So Detroit's a little bit more battle tested, I think, than the Ravens. And that loss to the Steelers they had 2 weeks ago was one of the worst. Like the fact that Lamar threw that pick at the end of the game that gave the Steelers the win, that was one of the worst interceptions of the year. So I'm going Lions here, plus 140, little underdog action, first pick. Ev, what are your thoughts on me riding Lions here?
I don't really hate it. I do think that these are two very, very similar teams, but two things I like about that pick. One, you're getting that value at the plus 140. For these two teams being fairly similar, I think that is some good plus money there. My pick is actually a decent heavy favorite, so it's a little dicey there. But another thing on the Lions, 3-0 on the road this season. They're a team that plays well on the road. And, the Ravens, I don't know if – I think – you kind of summed it up well. Both these teams are kind of in a similar boat they don't necessarily play the same, obviously, but they're in the same boat, sort of like rankings wise and how good they are and where they stand in the league. The Ravens are a hell of a lot more inconsistent than the Lions. The Lions have played fairly consistent football, 20 plus points in each game. They've had some defensive standout games. The Ravens have gone from scoring, 27 points to 19 to 28 to 10. Like, there's not the biggest amount of click factor for that team right now on both sides. So I don't hate it. I will say I think a lot of people are going to be on the Lions. That should give you a little bit of worry here. And the fact that, the Ravens did open up at, near minus 160 favorites. Vegas must know something there. But, if you put this in a vacuum, plus 140 for a team that is comparable, if not better than the team they're playing, I can't really knock you for that. You know what I mean? Like, that is a good spot. It definitely was kind of on, as I was skating through the slate, was a money line spot I was looking at too.
Yeah, it just that, and you kind of hit it on the head there. Like, what scares me about this is that, like, it feels so much like a trap game where it's like the Lions are 5-1. They've been their only loss, they lost to Seattle earlier in the year.
Yep.
In the Ravens, they haven't looked great. Like that London game, traveling back from London too. Like, everything says the Lions should win this game, which is what scares me because it feels like such a trap. Like, why would the Lions be 3-point underdogs? Like, why would they not be favorites in this game, or even like closer to even odds? So it does scare me. It feels a little bit like a trap, but in this situation, I'm going to lean into it a little bit. I'm going to step into the trap. I can't see the Lions losing this game. Truthfully, I think that they're a better team.
I say it even as your competitor here. I think it's worth taking the shot on them because I think that's some good value. Mine here, I don't know if I love the value. I really don't love the value, but I do think it's a decent spot for this team. And it pains me to say because I do think they're going up against a legitimate defense, a legitimate pass rush, but I am looking at the Rams here on the money line, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers coming off of a win here. I was at it two weeks ago, right? They had the bye. I think that the fact that you're looking at only minus 160 right now over on MGM for the Rams is due to the fact that everyone's going to be like, oh, Steelers coming off a bye, gives them time to prepare and blah, blah. Like, you mentioned the game against Baltimore. That feels like forever ago, right? That was their last game. Like there's some times where I think buys, especially if you're a team like the Steelers, that they're definitely confused as to where they stand, what they're doing, how good they are, how bad they are. They've had injuries. Sure, they can kind of shore up during a bye, but sometimes buys can lead to overthinking. I think that the Steelers team doesn't have any identity, doesn't know exactly what they are yet, and I think we're just starting to see a Rams team build some momentum, getting guys like Cooper Kupp back, having that offense still develop. I like the Rams at home in this spot. Pittsburgh obviously having to go to LA to play this. The only thing I don't like about this pick is the minus 160 odds. I'm taking a favor, which we always discuss strategy on this show. Could it be worth it to pull the trigger on a favorite and maybe hopefully secure it? I don't know if this is a lock or a secured spot, even with minus 160 odds. So it worries me a little bit. But odds aside, which obviously odds do matter, I do really like where this Rams team is starting to head. They needed to go out there and get a big win against Arizona last week. Not that it was a big win against Arizona, but they needed to kind of bounce back after, the America's game of the week against Phillies, and they won 26-9. Like, they did what they were supposed to do. I expect them to do a similar thing this week.
This is it's an interesting thing you picked this game to bet on, because I am not touching this game in any sense of the word. Like in like my bets, like I will not be touching this game. These are two teams that I really just don't have a read on yet. Like, we're 6 weeks through the year, and I still don't really know what to think of either of them. Like, the Rams are a nice story. They kind of blew it up in the offseason. You thought they'd be one of the worst teams, and they're actually pretty good. And Matt Stafford's playing well again, and their offense is pretty good. And the Steelers, obviously, their defense. We know the Steelers' defense. It's what they're known for. They're solid. Offensively, they're a mess, which I think a lot of people kind of expected outside of Steeler Nation, right? Outside of the the towel fans, right? I don't know I forget what they call themselves, but like all the Steeler fans, like, they probably thought the offense with Kenny Pickett would be pretty good. I think everybody outside of the state of Pennsylvania probably thought, yeah, it's not great. But like, the thing with the Steelers is, like, sometimes it's kind of similar to Baltimore in a sense where it's like, 1 week you look at them and like, hey, they have a top 10 defense. Kenny Pickett's throwing the ball pretty well. They actually have a little bit of a rhythm on offense. They don't look bad. And then the next week you watch them and it's like, holy shit, this might be the worst offense I've ever seen. Like, this actually hurts to watch. And the Rams, it's not as extreme, but it's kind of the same where it's like some weeks this offense looks like, wow, Matt Stafford's back. Like this is a really good offense. And there are some weeks where, particularly when they play a really good defense, which is what scares me here, because the Steelers pass rush with the pressure they're going to be able to put on Stafford. When like that Bengals game, that Monday night game against Cincinnati, like they put pressure on them, and this offense kind of just crap their pants. And I feel like this could be a similar spot, like T.J. Watt putting pressure. Like the Rams' offensive line is not that good. Matt Stafford under pressure at this point in his career, I don't know. I can't say it's a horrible pick. It's just such a risky. Like I think this is a coin flip game. I truly think like it's a flip of a coin here as to who wins. These are both, I think, sort of average teams at best, but it's really just a matter of who wins the matchup in the trenches. And I think the Steelers' offensive line is finally getting good enough where they might be able to protect Pickett. And on the flip side, I think their defensive line will put pressure on the Rams. So this is a tough one. I give you credit for picking a tough game here, but
well. What I will say, I wouldn't say this counters what you're saying, right? But I think it identifies sort of the value that I found that no one's even thinking of here. Everyone's thinking Matt Stafford, Pittsburgh's rush attack. Is that going to be the case? Pittsburgh has a really good pass defense. I think they rank in the top 5 defensive pass DVOA rankings, right? They're 19th against the rush in DVOA rankings. So this is a team that, yes, they have all the playmakers, really good team. They're not the strongest of run defenses. The Rams are a better DVOA. Again, not just comparing, the opponents you've played and the skill of them, not necessarily like the yards per game, that type of thing, but they're 5th in rush DVOA here. They're a better ranked run offense than they are even pass offense. Everyone knows Matt Stafford, knows the guys. I even mentioned Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua and whatnot, right? But if they could carve up the Steelers on the ground, forget about that. They're not going to have to rely on protecting Matt Stafford and whatnot. And we've seen, some of the teams that have played against Pittsburgh kind of not necessarily run all over them, but they've definitely had some spots in which they, couldn't contain running backs. Nick Chubb was well on his way to a fantastic rushing game against them before, his knee blew out. But, Josh Jacobs I think he ran for near 70 yards in kind of a bad game of his. Like, I think that, yes, I could be concerned with Matt Stafford getting rushed, but if the Rams can run on Pittsburgh, I think this completely puts the game on its head.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think kind of the same point you had originally made, though, is like this is such a risky bet, and at minus 160 odds, is where I really don't like that for you, just because like it's such a risky pick and for such high odds. Minus 160 is pretty. I'm actually surprised at how much the Rams are favored here against a 3-2 Steelers team. But besides that, I can't say I hate it. I don't love it. It's a kind of I'm so on it. Like I said, it's a definition of a coin flip game for me, where it's like literally, it's 50-50 as to who comes out. Like I really don't see a edge. I don't think either team has an edge. I think they're pretty evenly matched in one way. Like where the other team is weak, the other team is they kind of even each other out. So risky. I give you credit for betting like that. It's I don't want to say it's a balls on the table kind of bet for you, but it is interesting.
Well, I had a couple of those last week. Only one of them or so worked out. But, all right, we got another wheel on the screen. It is a snake draft, like I said, so I'm going next. I'm kind of hoping for one of the new ones, not because I have a bunch of these like plays in my back pocket, but I do kind of want to mix up what we have here, like one of the underdog spread or that type of thing. But let's see what we got here. It's right into a clump of all the old ones.
Yep, and you got a total.
All right, you knew that was coming. But all right, so for a total, I do have a couple that I like, so not all that bummed about that. I will say I have no loves in this one whatsoever, so a little tough to see this. But I just think that this is a game. This is a chalk play, but I just think it's a spot in which we could see, and one offense has been struggling, hasn't been scoring as many points, going up against one of the best defenses in the league. We're going to have to wait till Monday night. It's Minnesota taking on the 49ers. I like the under in this spot, under 44. I could see this is just another spot in which, and this is the risk in taking this pick. This could be another spot in where the 49ers put up 40 themselves like they did against the Cowboys. But I think Kirk Cousins and the Vikings offense is going to have a tough time doing really anything against this 49ers defense. So if the 49ers offense goes out there and drops 30 plus points or 35 plus, then take your win, or take, you can have my loss, because that's going to make it tough. But this is, or should be, just based on how these teams are playing, should be a one-sided affair, which I'll take my chances at even a potential, 30 to 13 type of a game in which, it's right there, but the Vikings really couldn't pull their own weight. That's minus 110 odds right now, under 44.
So I actually did look at this pick too. I don't love the totals this week, I'll be honest. And so, out of all the overs I was looking at, this is kind of one of the only ones that kind of stuck out to me. The problem with this game is just that the 49 from the Vikings side of it, you're playing one of the probably the best defense in the NFL, which does not help. Like, you don't have Justin Jefferson, you don't have a run game. They're going to be able to pressure Kirk. He's not going to be able. They struggled to score points on the Bears defense, which is not very good. And now you're going to the Niners defense. I don't really see how it's going to be any easier. On the Niners side of things, they should do most of the heavy lifting. The problem there is that Purdy's going to be without some of his pieces potentially, like maybe no McCaffrey, maybe no Debo. And I'm a Brock Purdy supporter. I like the guy. I think his story is, it's kind of, I hate saying Brady-esque, but it is very Brady-esque in fashion. But I do think the Browns defense is very good, obviously very different from what they're going to see in Minnesota. I don't want to say he got exposed, but I do think you're starting to see why he was a 7th-round pick. He did not look good at all against the Browns, and it's you took McCaffrey away, and you took Debo away, and all of a sudden he started to look like a 7th-round pick. And so I do wonder, how much is that going to impact them here? Now, the Vikings defense is not great. They played well against the Bears, but it's also the Bears, and Justin Fields went out. Who knows, had Fields stayed in the game, what would have happened? Maybe my fade me pick would have actually hit. So I don't know here. That's just it's bold. Again, you're going very bold here. I almost wonder if the wind got to your head a little bit, because you're really going out there with some of these picks.
It sounds like you don't mind the under if Brock Purdy looked bad in Minnesota, struggling to score.
I don't mind the under. Honestly, I don't mind the under here.
That's what I picked. What's so bold?
But that's the reason why it was on my on my radar. But I don't think I would have actually taken it. It's just, there is a world where this game's ugly. The Niners win 23-7.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
What you cashing under?
I know, but 44.
I don't know. It sounds like you're saying the what ifs, but you're just agreeing with me while doing it. So I'll take it.
Hold on a second. This might be a cut worthy moment. I thought you took the over.
No, under.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, then I love the pick. Sorry. Forget everything I just said. I love the under. This whole time I'm like, man, that's the over's bold there. I don't know.
We have to leave that in. You've had too much. You need to be humbled on this show.
That was bad. That was really bad. The whole time I'm like, you were like, why? You're like, yeah, I could see 23-7 too. That's why I like it. I'm like, didn't you take the over? Now it makes sense.
Hi. You know what? Maybe I'm wrong. If anyone's watching this and they're like, wait, you did say over, the final answer is the under. That's over.
I thought you said over. That's my mistake to the people watching. Yeah, I can't hate on that pick, Ev. I like that pick a lot. I like it a lot. I just gave a 5-minute rant on why I liked your pick.
Exactly. That's why I'm confused over here. Why'd you call it bold if you like it?
No, right, that's probably the nicest compliment you're going to get from me. I literally just defended your own pick for the last 5 minutes. The
only time Tasos is nice to me when he literally accidentally does it.
Oh, wow, that was bad. That was hey, listen, you know what? Guys, ride with Ev. I like the pick. Like I said, I can't hate on it.
I really hope watching this back, I did say the under, because I said it multiple times. But what if I said, it's locked in as the under.
I don't know. I thought I heard you say over, and that's what I ran with. Because then immediately in my head, I thought I heard you say over, because then in my head, I'm like, all right, let me think of a defense here real quick why I don't like this. And then it was like, I actually like the under. I was looking at the under I was on my board. So, yeah.
Little do I know, you're probably just reverse jinxing me the whole time now. So you're playing chess, I'm playing checkers.
This actually works.
Yeah. But all right, what is your total pick here that I will listen intently to so I can respond correctly?
All right, I'm gonna ride with you in a sense. I'm gonna go under also. I am going to go on Sunday Night Football, Eagles, Dolphins under 52. I think just everybody in America is going to be riding the over here because obviously the Dolphins are the Dolphins and they've been an over-covering machine this season. The Eagles, they've got a solid offense. Their defense hasn't been great. So I think a lot of people expect a shootout here in Philly. I think a lot of people expect a lot of points. I think kind of the opposite. I think the Eagles' defense is going to pressure Tua and force some mistakes. And I think the Eagles' offense, they haven't been playing that great. So I don't really think they're going to go crazy throwing all over the Dolphins. So, I just the 52 total, I get where it comes from because these are two of the better offenses in football. The Dolphins have been the best offense so far this year. I think this is one of those games where this is where the simpletons, and I hate to say that because I don't want to be mean, but this is where the simpletons of gambling bet. Like if you're kind of a novice at betting, you throw a lot of money on this over and say there's no way it doesn't hit. Well, the Dolphins are going to score 40 at least, and the Eagles will throw in 20. I really think this is a game where everyone thinks the over is an easy bet, and I don't think it's that simple. I think the under is a very good bet here, so I'm going to go under 52.
So
and that is an under, just to clarify.
Okay, we got that. I listened. But see, what if it's a 10-3 game? But you know what's funny is I this is a pass for me. So when you said everyone's gonna go over and all that, that's where I kind of take the it's opportunity cost almost. You don't bet that because it definitely could go over. You know what I mean? They are stellar. Yeah. Anything could happen. Obviously, that's not really what I'm trying to say. But I do think passing on this for me personally is almost okay. Well, then I'm taking the under in a weird sense. So I do get where you're coming from. The one thing that scares me is we're only a couple weeks removed from when people were saying how bad this Eagles defense was, they've been a run defense all year. But we talked about, I think on the show a couple weeks ago when I took them, or maybe it was 3 weeks ago, and people were like, this Eagles defense isn't the same. You know what I mean? It's Tua could go out there, and if there's one thing the Eagles struggle in, it's the pass defense. If they put up, this could go exactly how the simpletons are thinking. They're going to put up 35, and then the Eagles are good enough to put up 20 type of thing. So, but again, I'm not taking the over. I would never take the over in this spot. So that says a little bit about the pick, even taking the under in and of itself. If I were to roll with something, it would be the under. I'm passing in this spot just because I think it's almost like it could be too easy for them to hit the over in a sense.
I think the big thing for me here, and this is someone I have Spencer, who I do play action takes with. He's one of my best friends. Yep. He's if you watch the show, it'll be out on Wednesday before this comes out. We actually have a pretty big wager on this Eagles Dolphins game. I've watched enough Dolphins games with him in my lifetime with Tua to know where he struggles, and this is the perfect opportunity for a struggle game for him because he really where when you put it's not about the corners because he can burn with those receivers. You can burn any corner. It's when you play these really great defensive lines that too. When you put pressure and you hit him a little bit, he kind of becomes. Derek Carr is also very similar in this sense, where it's if he has a clean pocket and everything's working, he looks like an elite quarterback. The minute you muddy the pocket a little bit, and the minute you put a little pressure on him, he starts making bad decisions. He starts doing things out of character. Tua is very similar in this aspect where you put a little pressure on him. That Bills game, I think, is a great example where the Bills obviously have one of the best defensive lines in football. They put some pressure on Tua. He doesn't make all these crazy throws like he normally does. And so that's why I think here the Eagles, yes, their secondary hasn't been great, but that front four might be the best in the NFL. Jalen Carter is a steal. And the Dolphins' offensive line is not great. So I think they're going to be able to pressure Tua a little bit here. And I'm interested to see how he'll respond to that pressure on a big stage like Sunday night. I think it's going to get to him a little bit. And again, on the Eagles side of things, their offense has not been that great. The Dolphins are not a pushover on defense. They're not great. I just think the Eagles are not going to be able to score 30-plus points. I think Miami's going to struggle. I just don't. 52, like I said, I get why it's so high because on paper, this should be a shootout. I don't think it will be, personally. But I could be wrong, and I could see it happening. I just think this is where you go low where people go high. I think everyone's going over. I'm going to ride under here.
Yeah, and I just looked it up too, just to kind of prove the point, because I agree with you that Bills game's a good example. Tua, when he is pressured, his completion percentage drops 50%, and he's a plus 70% completion percent guy to begin with, a good. So it is there, and again, me saying I'm passing on it is kind of agreeing with the under. Altogether. So I don't necessarily hate it. I don't think it would have the confidence of me to take it just because they are so good offensively. But I can't really knock the case that you're making, to be completely honest.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
All right.
After I just made your case for you, it's nice to have you make my case for me too. So it's
did we just become best
very
friends?
friendly on this episode.
yeah, we are. What? Maybe that's the key to success here.
Well, we'll see. We could lose all these picks, and then it turns out we can't. What works.
I got to pump the brakes. Can't count our eggs before they hatch here. But all right, we're entering round 3. If I'm not mistaken, you are now up first, correct?
Yep.
What are you looking for here before I spin? Anything in particular?
I want one like you. I want one of these new picks. I'm interested to see. I want to try one of these new things out. I don't want not that there's nothing wrong with the old, but it's nice to try some new stuff out here every now and again. So I want one of these new pie slices here.
All right, let's see what we got.
Underdog spread in particular, I gotta say. And
we're just getting.
We're just gonna go regular spread. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, the wheel gods do what they do.
Yep. They're not fans of change apparently.
No.
Okay.
Like, what are you talking about?
This. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this one. I had a couple options here. I like this one a lot. Give me LA Chargers plus 5.5 at the Kansas City Chiefs 4:30 game. Chargers coming off a disappointing Monday night loss against the Cowboys. Chiefs. Here's the real reason I'm betting this game. Truthfully, I think Kansas City. They need to make a move, and they're trying not to because I think they're trying to prove, and I don't know if this is really why Andy Reid is doing this, but I think they're trying to prove like, hey, we don't need receivers. We don't need to go make a move. We can do with whatever. If you watch the Chiefs this year, especially that Monday night game Thursday night game, against the Broncos, their offense is not as good as it used to be. They need a receiver. I think Travis Kelce's great, and he gets 10 plus targets a game, but they don't have that receiver that can help him out. Like no matter what you want to say, like the offense has always been kind of Kelce oriented, but even last year, like they had Juju Smith-Schuster, they had Mecole Hardman, like they had other pieces there along with Kelce, and I just think they're missing a receiver. Their offense hasn't looked great. Now their defense is legit. There's no doubt about that. But I think offensively, it's not just the Broncos game. They almost lost to the Jets on Sunday Night Football. They lost to the Lions week 1. The only game where this offense has looked like the Chiefs of old was that Bears game, and let's face it, they were playing the Bears. So, I don't think the Chiefs look like themselves. Not to say that they won't become that, because I do think they'll end up trading for a receiver in the next 2 weeks. But right now, I think they need a wake-up call, and I think a loss to the Chargers. I think Chargers are actually going to win this game, to be totally fair. But I'm going to take the points just to be safe, plus 5.5. I think coming off a loss, the Chargers, they know that their season kind of hangs in the balance here. And I know this is kind of the trend with me that I've been betting every week is like, their jobs are on the line and their season's on the line, but it is a real factor. Like I do think that affects the locker room a little bit. Is like, the Chargers now are what? I think they're 2-4 after that loss to the. Or 2-3 or 2-4. I think they're 2-4, maybe 2-3. Let me just double check that real quick. They are 2-3. So like you're sub 500. The AFC, you've got a lot of 3-win teams in the AFC. Like you can't really afford to keep losing games, especially in your own division. I think the Chargers are way too talented to keep losing games like the way they are. I think that they almost beat the Chiefs last year. They've been giving the Chiefs pretty good battles the last couple seasons. So I like the Chargers here. I think coming off a loss, they're going to be motivated. I think Kansas City, they're kind of in a little bit of a funk, especially offensively. I think the Chargers are going to take advantage of that. So give me Chargers plus 5.5 here.
I don't hate it. It's kind of it's a ballsy play. I do think the Chiefs, though they're missing some spots here, them at home always seems to have a little bit of an edge there. But that's a decent amount of points to give a Chargers team. Yes, the Cowboys obviously win that game and. I wouldn't obviously not dominant fashion, right? It's not like they went out there and just handled them. If the Chargers had 5.5 points against the Cowboys, they covered that game, and you'd still make the argument that it wasn't like they played their best football. So yeah, I don't hate it. I just think that it can be Like if we're recording next week and it's like the Chiefs won by 20 because they were at home, and I would not be shocked. It's like, yeah, you bet against the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Anything can happen there. But no, I don't hate it. I think that it's too many points. Like this should be 3.5 in terms of what I would predict as the spread, and you're getting 5.5. So just like the Lions spot, I can kind of rationalize whether it's the value, the line, the money. Do you know what I mean? Like I can kind of get behind that spot there. My pick, and I think this is going to be a messy game, so I don't like laying points. I am taking a favorite here. I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Atlanta game, and I'm going Tampa Bay -2.5. I don't think that this is an Atlanta team that is gonna get any better down the stretch. I know they have some young guys that are playing well, but Tampa Bay's got a legitimate defense. Last week against Detroit puts up 20 points. Tampa Bay loses 20-6. Not a very good game. Atlanta's coming off a bad loss too, I guess you could make the argument for 24-16. I think Tampa Bay at home here feels a little bit more like we can't drop two straight. Detroit's offense is a lot better than we've seen from Atlanta, even though Atlanta does, like I said, have some talent. They're really just not a cohesive unit just yet. And I believe in this Tampa Bay defense, so I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I'll take the field goal. Usually, this would actually probably, if I'm being honest, be a pass if it was plus, or the spread was 3.5, because if it's a low scoring game, I really wouldn't want to lay more than a field goal. But the fact that we're inside field goal range there in terms of Tampa Bay covering, I don't hate it. They're also a 3-2 team against the spread this year, whereas Atlanta's just 1-5 against the spread. So I like the spot for Tampa Bay. I'm trusting that defense. I've talked about it on the show, right? I don't really believe the Baker Mayfield aspect. I don't think that he's all that great. I don't really believe in even those receivers that have big names but aren't doing much. I like Rashad White, but he hasn't been exceptional. I'm betting on the defense here.
Yeah, I don't hate the pick. I do think the Bucs, it does suck because their defense is legit, and honestly, I feel bad because obviously you have to blame Baker a little bit, but I do think like Mike Evans, I don't know if he changed his gloves up or he just is he spitting his gloves before games? Like the drops are crazy, and I don't remember him being this bad throughout his whole career. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure if I did, they would tell me this is a career worst year in terms of drops. Like he is dropping everything, and so I do feel bad for Baker where it's I think the funny thing is coming into the season, I think everybody kept talking about, oh well, he has all these weapons. The weapons are what's kind of hurting them at the end of the day. Rashad White's not playing well. Mike Evans isn't playing well. Godwin's kind of a non-factor. Baker's actually played decent. And I think he's kind of matured a little bit. And, there's stories coming out that he's kind of stepped up as a leader in that locker room. And, I feel like the receivers are the ones letting him down. I think he's actually having a solid year. I like this really just for one reason and one reason only. I'm so over the Desmond Ridder thing. I don't know how the Falcons aren't over it yet. He's not the guy. And I know Taylor Heineke isn't either, but I do think with Heineke, you'd be far better off. I mean, Ridder threw 3 picks last week. He looked ugly last week. And I know fantasy-wise, people, fantasy managers, he still scored over 20 points. It's but, that's in real life terms, he had a horrible game. He threw 3 picks. Ridder's not the guy. I don't, like I said, I don't think Heineke is, but as long as Ridder's playing, I just don't like this Falcons team. I really don't. I don't think
people are going to make the case because who'd they play opening day where he looked okay for over, I forget who it was. But Panthers. Did they open up against the Panthers?
I think it was the Panthers.
Okay.
I'm gonna look
he looked
good
right there.
I think it was.
So that kind of starts the season. Whoever it was, that kind of starts the season on a good trend. He had a decent game, and then he had a really good game in, I think that was against the Texans 3 or 2 weeks ago, right? So it's he has these good games where just as he's starting to suck, he kind of has a good game. People are like, oh, there's our young future quarterback. I don't really buy into him. I think Bijan Robinson's great. Obviously, they have a couple good receivers. Pitts doesn't really even get utilized, but yeah, I just don't think that this is an Atlanta team. Like I said, they don't really have an identity. I don't know their direction. And Tampa Bay, while I don't necessarily love the team, I think that they have a little bit more identity and sort of what you're getting in more consistency week in and week out. So give me Tampa Bay there, -2.5. Again, it's not the most confident thing I've ever said because 2.5, it's if this was 3.5, I don't think I'd be looking at it, which is a little scary, but I'm just admitting that.
No, like I said, I would probably, this is one of those games where I probably pass because these NFC South showdowns, I don't really... I like Tampa Bay a little bit more than Atlanta, but even still, the Bucs with the way that this offense has been lately, and the Falcons do have a solid defense. They spent a lot of money in the offseason improving upon it. it's tough. I'd probably pass, but if I had to make a pick here, I'd probably lean Bucks. I know this has nothing to do with the pick at hand, but just something I want to throw out in the the YouTube world. I think Kirk Cousins will be the quarterback of the Falcons next year. Just a little take, just a little, when it happens, just come back here, watch this episode, and just remember that I told you guys that. Because I just, like, the whole Ritter thing, like, they're not going to have a good enough draft pick to take one of these good quarterbacks. They're honestly solid defense. They have weapons. They're a quarterback away, really, from being something. And I think Kirk Cousins is done in Minnesota after this year. Kirk Cousins to Atlanta could be interesting. So that's just a little.
It seems like a fit. It seems like a fit that could be worth it. So make sure you clip that and save it.
Yep. So when it happens, I'm just going to put it everywhere and just tell people I called this like a year in advance.
Exactly. And then videos come out that you said every other quarterback's name too.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
You just predicted all of them. But all right, you ready to move on to the fade me round?
I'm ready. I got to redeem myself here because I hope it lands on me because last week's fade me was atrocious. Horrible performance.
Yep. All right, if you guys don't know what the fade me round is, probably one of the things other than the big old colorful rainbow wheel that makes the show super unique. Last round here, so round number 4, we spin the wheel. Whoever it lands on, that person gets to make the selection, and the other person has to fade the pick, aka do the opposite. So, you're kind of forcing the hand of the person here. Tasos is calling a shot. He wants the fade me round. Let's spin it. Let's see what we got. So if it lands on Tasos, he gets to make a pick. I have to take the opposite. Tasos.
All right.
You're going to have your shot.
Oh, okay. This is
you're going to have your shot.
Pressure. I have a chance to redeem myself here.
Or look like even bigger of a loser because you just won. You asked for it so badly.
Or basically just put you right back into the if this is crazy because
this is huge. You're right.
This is huge because this game. I mean, the fade me last week it determined the outcome. I mean, not really. You weren't 3-1, but if I had one fade me, the whole outcome of that week is because now we're both 2-2, and now it's about units. I don't know how that exactly would have matched up, but it makes it a lot more interesting. Fade me got you the win, so this could determine if you're 3-4, and now all of a sudden we're only a game separated. So this is a lot of pressure here, a lot of pressure. And
don't feel it too much. Don't feel it too much. Don't worry about it. Just make sure if you are taking a total, make sure you know if you're doing over or under because. I know those two words look very similar to you, and I don't want this to have an asterisk next to it.
Fair enough. I'm going to we've talked about it all year long, and nobody's done it. I'm going to do it here. They let me down last week, but I'm going to give them another shot because they've been my darling this year. I'm going Seahawks, money line, minus 375. One's done it this year. It's the one strategy. I mean, I'm sure there's others, but this is the one strategy we've talked about a lot that we haven't really utilized is betting the heavy favorite. I was leaning on taking the spread, but that's 7.5 points. I don't like that number, so I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and ride Seattle here. I'm going to take a money line minus 375. Let's get an automatic win on there. Make sure you don't get a win there. Now, obviously, if the Cardinals somehow pull out a win here.
It's huge.
You automatically win the week.
It's unless you go. Yeah, I guess I actually probably would because you'd be 3-1.
Unless you lose the other 3 and I win out. That's the only scenario where I probably win is if I'd have to go 3-0 across the other bets, and you'd have to go 0-3.
So just actually better for you and for me. Minus 360 on DraftKings I'm seeing right now.
Okay.
And then plus 315 on FanDuel.
Okay.
So. Just the best we can both take it. I have the different odds up in front of me, so we both can get the best. We each get, I guess, 20 cents on the $100 there. But yeah, minus 360 plus 315. Oh, you're doing it. I was waiting. We were both waiting for this strategy to happen at some point.
That's why I said we've been talking about it all season long, and I was like, who's gonna be the first to do it? And I kind of made fun of you last week because I'm like, I probably won't do it. And then this week rolls around, and I'm like, it's not a bad move. There's also.
And you love the Seahawks.
It sounds stupid, but there is a kind of there's an ulterior motive here as to why I did this also, because so sometimes people do this right when this is the rule a lot of people have, don't bet on your own team, right? So because obviously when you bet on your own team and they win, it's double loss. If the Cardinals win, obviously I'll lose, probably lose the show this week, but if they win and the Patriots lose, the Patriots will jump over them in draft odds. and now all of a sudden the Patriots would have like the 4th or 3rd overall pick. So it's kind of like, if I lose, there is a silver lining in the sense that like if the Cardinals win, it hurts their draft position. It gives New England a better draft spot. So that's that's not bullshit. That's honestly what I was thinking. Like, honestly, I wouldn't hate it if the Cardinals win. So like, it's kind of like, having your cake and eating it too. Like, of course I want to win H2H. I want to win the show. But if I don't win this week, at least there is a silver lining of, you know what, the Patriots, if they lose, and they probably will have a better draft pick. So, maybe Drake May.
Look at this guy. You're just you're playing checkers or playing chess while everyone's playing checkers. Yep. It's what it is. But all right, guys, that is gonna wrap it up for H2H. If you're still watching right now, let us know in the comments that you made it through the end of the video. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. We will be back to a normal setup and everything like that next week. Obviously, just making do with what we have for now, but nonetheless, we will be back next week. Hopefully I'm 3-4. It gets a lot more interesting, Tasos, if this is a 3-4 record here. So it's also, there's your spin zone, a win-win. The more you lose for the next 2 weeks, the more interesting the show gets, and that type of thing. So you're sitting pretty.
It's going to be, like I said, it will. If you win this week, now all of a sudden it's a 1-game lead with 11 weeks to go, and now all of a sudden it's almost like we're starting back over from page 1.
With some new rules and stuff coming next week as well.
Yes,
things could be getting interesting.
Yes, we talked about it all kind of when we first launched the show, like episode 1, we talked about it like, nothing's really set in stone in terms of the format. Like, we're going to be experimenting over the course of the year, and there are a couple ideas that we came up with. We were going to implement it this week. We decided to wait one more week till next week to try it out. One of them is going to be a lock of the week kind of rule. So basically, each of us will have it in our back pocket. Now, you don't need to use it. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily
a luxury? Oh,
I don't know what word I'm looking for, but like you don't have to use it, right? It's not necessary to use your lock, but if you do, and you're so confident on a pick that you put your lock, it counts as a 2-unit bet. Now, obviously, there's 2 sides to this, right? If you win, obviously you put 2 units down, you win more units, but if you lose, you also lose 2 units. So there is kind of a risk and reward with it, but it's like if you're really confident on a pick and you really think it's going to hit, go ahead and use that lock. Obviously, there are some weeks you may not use it. There could be multiple weeks in a row you don't use it. There could also be multiple weeks in a row that you use it and it wins you the week. So it's very interesting. And then the other thing that we're adding too is on the pie wheel, there will be a parlay option, because we've talked about a little bit how would we implement parlays in the show. We haven't really used that at all through the first 6 or 7 weeks of the show, but starting next week, there will be a parlay pie slice on the wheel. So
yep,
that'll be interesting. I think that'll be really interesting because obviously how the odds work with units. Can you imagine if we lock a parlay? Like there's a lot of
now you're talking dirty.
Like these new rules, like it adds a lot more to the table now. Like there's a lot more strategy, which I love that aspect of this show is obviously the competition and the strategy side of things. So it does add even more to that. So I'm very interested and very excited to see how these rule changes will go. So I'm looking forward to next week. Hopefully I will be 5-2. I think I probably will be 5-2. History shows on this show that I'm pretty good, minus like the 2 weeks that you've won. 1 week.
Yeah, I'm yet to put 2 together.
Yeah, so we'll see. Listen, you put 2 together, and I start giving you some more respect, and the condescending Tasso kind of goes away a little bit as you start to win.
And you listen to my picks. You listen to what I'm taking, so that you can.
I might actually give you my attention for a whole pick.
Love it. But all right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for week number 7 here. And we'll be back to the normal look and everything like that next week. But until next time, catch you guys later.